There is a media component to hyperpartisanship, and there have been worse days, haven't there?
I don't know. You know, one of the most fascinating things that I've heard on our show was when Pat Buchanan and Tom Brokaw started talking in 2009 during the health care debate about how bad things had gotten. I said, well, you guys, you covered the civil rights struggle, 1968, the Chicago Convention when Chicago was on fire. That was about as bad as it could have gotten, right? And both Brokaw and Buchanan said, oh no, this is much worse. This is much worse. It's interesting now, when I talk to survivors of the Clinton administration and the Gingrich Congress, when we get together, despite the fact that that seemed so ugly back in the 1990s, we talk about how, despite the fact that we didn't like each other, when the chips were down, we said, you know what, we've got to do the right thing. Balance a budget for the first time in a generation. 4 years in a row for the first time since the 1920s. Grew the economy. It did a lot of very positive things together. And I think that is before the hyper-partisanship really got fueled by a lot of the new media components. Now, I'm not saying that it is the responsibility of bloggers to be more tactful when they're in their basement eating Cheetos in their mother's house, writing nasty things about leaders. The responsibility falls, and I think it's very terrible, getting Cheeto stains on your MacBook. It's hard to get out. I think the responsibility actually lies in politicians being grown-ups and knowing what to filter out. Over the past 5-6 years, Washington hasn't done a good job at distinguishing between ground noise and the signal. And I think that is beginning to change. I really do. But there is no doubt that there's a media component to this that we didn't even have during the Clinton administration.
And we have found that actually our show, if I may, has been kind of a breakthrough in the national conversation because we don't attack each other and
well, you attack
people
me.
still watch. Well, you deserve it.
But
there is ultimately peace at the end, usually, during what we learn.
Well, it's not personal.
Maybe.
I mean, I think
it's not
that's
personal.
the key.
And that's the bottom line, and the viewer knows that, and the viewer is staying. So that's hopeful. But we have an outgoing senator, an incoming senator, idealistic, fed up.
Well,
bitter, tired, cynical.
Still idealistic, but looking for a different role. How about that?
Fed up.
All
no?
right, fed up.
Well, tell us why. I mean, why? I'd like to actually hear from both of the senators why you're here today, because this obviously resonates with you and is something that you think we need as we move forward.
Mika, I have the perspective of someone who kind of grew up in public life by virtue of my father's service. One of the stories, I think we search in vain for a golden era of comity in American politics. It's always been kind of rough and tumble. But having said that, there is no question that it is worse today than it was before. My father tells the story in 1968. He's running for his first re-election. The Republican leader was Everett Dirksen. Dirksen comes up to my father on the floor of the Senate, puts his arm around his shoulder, and asks what he can do to help with his re-election. This would never happen today. I mean, you'd look for a sharp instrument in the hand. So it was different in those days, and there are a number of reasons why things have changed. But I guess my message is that, and the reason I'm here today, there are gathering challenges that are going to define the future of our country, which if unaddressed will mean that my children, who are now 15, will inherit from me, for the first time in the history of our country, one generation to another, an America that is in some ways less than what we inherited from our parents. I feel a deep moral responsibility to not let that happen. The current political process is not delivering the results the American people want. And the unfortunate part is that vast middle, particularly out where I'm from, some other places, they don't care what party you belong to or what ideology you happen to subscribe to. They want practical progress. Which also can be good politics. I mean, if you look what happened in the last couple election cycles, my party 2 years ago won independence by 8 or 9%. This last time we lost independence by what, 13, 14%. They're looking for something better, something different. And that's what this organization has a chance to deliver. And I think we'll make a remarkable contribution to the public welfare if we're able to do that. And I was on a radio program, now I'm going to be quiet and we'll get to Joe, but he said, well, what is your audience? And I said, well, we got a large audience of the public. To all those of you who are yearning for a place you can go for a better approach, this is it. But we also got an inside audience. For all those members like Joe and others who are saying, I got the far left and the far right. If I stake out that kind of sensible center, I'm just going to get shot from both sides. Now there's a movement that will support you in doing the right thing. That's very important.
He's a Democrat, he's Republican. There's a fight in the race, who's gonna win? Put your differences aside, man, if you can. Cause it's way too many people suffering. I wish they didn't have no label. There'd be more change with no label. My kids will grow up soon. Your kids will grow up too. Wouldn't you like to see them raised up next to good